be going through each one of these sections of turn by watching some video, but first I want to kind of walk you through the map of the track. So now let's take a look at the track map here. So VIR is 3.27 miles. It is 17 turns. It's not important right now to memorize all 17 turns. What I'd like for you to do is think about these in their 8 little sections that I've broken down here that are highlighted in green, starting with turn 1. So again, keep in mind just 1 or 2 words for each one of these sections to remind yourself as you're driving along kind of what you need to do or some of the characteristics. So turn 1, the key here is going to be patience and off camber, and you'll see why later in the video. So for turn 1, again, it's just say to yourself patience and off camber. For NASCAR and left hook, the 2 concepts are going to be white patch, and the second is full width of track. For the snake, actually entering the snake, I want you to remember neutral throttle up until the entry. For the S's, the most important thing in the S's is to remember rhythm. It's all about rhythm. And the apexes are late, mid, and late. For turn 10, the main thing here is the exit is blind. So say to yourself, blind exit. For oak tree, and this might be a controversial way of putting this, but think double apex and full width. You'll see why later in the video why I call this a double apex. Then full width, what I mean by that is this is a common place where people that are newer to driving on the track cut off the radius of the turn and really only use half the width of the track. So double apex and full width for oak tree. For roller coaster, I say this to myself as tie together, late apex. Tie together, late apex. So what I mean by that is you're tying these turns together, thinking about them as a system rather than a series of turns. And once you do that, you'll find that it's much easier to kind of get through this section. And then the last section is hog pin. So the thing to remember about hog pin is the compression, which we will talk about later in this video. So now let's look at entering into turn 1, getting onto the track, etc. So the first thing that you and your instructor will be talking about is, upon entering the track, is the blend line. This is absolutely the most important thing for you to bring into or ingrain into your memory. It is critical that you stay all the way to the right when you are joining the track. Sometimes you're not always joining the track when you're the first in line or second or third in line. Sometimes you're joining the track when it is quote unquote a hot track. So people may be entering into that turn at 130, 140 miles an hour, and the last thing that you want to do is be all the way over to the left side or even in the middle. So get in the habit now of staying all the way to the right side, right on the very edge. And just to be safe, just stay all the way to the right until you see the end of that painted curbing there, otherwise known as the gators. So one thing that you'll start to note is that instructors have a lot of visual references that they want you to notice on the track. The first 2 key ones are the flagpole and the white patch, which are around NASCAR bends. So I'm going to show you those 2 now. So the goal of these visual references is not for you to stare at them, but oftentimes your instructor will have you drive right towards them. So they'll say drive straight towards the flagpole and then turn at the white patch. So the white patch, for example, is my turn-in point. You'll see it consistently on every track, or rather every lap, and you'll find that you're going to have visual references throughout the track, which I'm going to reference some of the ones that I use, that are going to help you maintain focus and longer term or longer range vision, which is also another important thing we'll talk about in more detail throughout this video. So let's talk a little bit about some of the terms you'll be hearing throughout this video, starting first, of course, at the white patch here in NASCAR Bend, where that is your corner entry. So you'll hear corner entry, you'll hear corner apex, which is the geometric center of every turn. and then corner exit. So these types of phrases are going to be helpful for you to understand, and you'll hear them a lot. Your instructor, so he'll say hit the apex. You may say which apex. That's common. So that's what we mean when we're talking about entry, apex, and exit. So as you can see, my corner entry mark is the white patch. I touched the late apex here at NASCAR Bend, and then corner exit, the car will swim out, as I call it, to those outside exit gators. So the car is not being forced out there. That's where it's going by virtue of my throttle inputs and my steering inputs. So this is the one section I see most students struggle with in terms of using the entire width of the track. So what you'll want to do is line yourself up all the way to the right hand side and stay there as long as you can. Oftentimes you'll find students get into the middle of the track, and that basically what's called cutting off your apex, because your apex is much more shallow when you do it that way. So again, you want to stay all the way to the right, and that's going to be the case pretty much across throughout the entire track. Is use the entire width of the track when you're driving along it, because again, you don't want to cut off the apex. So stay all the way to the right. And by the way, this is the section in between NASCAR and left hook. So this is one place where I want a very late apex. As you can see from the turn in here, this is one turn in particular which you are punished quite a bit for an early apex. So you can see that I'll catch the late edge or the very latest part of that apex, which kind of sets me up for my entry into the snake. So again, here is probably one of the worst places to do an early apex. That and a couple other sections, but this is one area that you're particularly punished for it, and you kind of learn very quickly. When you find yourself in the middle of the track or way out of sorts, most and oftentimes it is because you apex too early on this turn. So as I exit the turn here, you can see I'm all the way to the left edge right on the apex, but I slowly start to creep towards the middle of the track to connect with that next apex. So this is the one outlier where you are mid-track out at a VIR. But again, that's so I can set up for all these series of turns, because when I enter that from the middle, that gives me the ability to hold the wheel at a constant radius and keep a very neutral throttle all the way through this section before I get in the entry into the snake. So you'll see me making some small corrections here and there to get the car exactly where I want, all the way on the left hand side as I start to approach this first gator on the entry into the snake. But again, it's neutral throttle all the way through here. You're not on the gas, you're not off the gas, you're just kind of maintaining a neutral position, and this is what sets you up to make this nice and clean all the way through the snake. So right after you hit that first apex on the entry into the snake, that's when you slowly start feeding in the throttle and go full throttle all the way through to the bridge straight before you get to this first section of track on entering into the climbing S's. So let's talk a little bit about long range vision. So upon the entering the S's, usually right around the bridge, I will try to pick up the tree off in the distance for long range vision. And that's one of my visual references as I'm moving through the S's to kind of keep a nice straight line. I then scan to the flag station and then to the first S, which is on your left, and that first S is a late apex. The second is a mid apex. The third is going to be a late apex. And when you pass, or when you go through that third apex, you want to hold the wheel just maybe a half a car length more for your entry into the next turn. So that's kind of what we mean by long range vision, is that your eyes should always be scanning ahead to where your car is going, not to where you currently are. So you'll see that my hands move very little throughout the section, and really throughout the track I use the smallest movements possible with my hands. So making sure that your hands are not jerky but nice and smooth and shallow, that's the key to maintaining the balance of your car. So entry into turn 10 is all the way from the right side of the track, and there's a small hill you're going to climb before you start this turn, and I use that at the top of the hill as my reference to start braking. Now note, I'm not going to talk a lot about braking throughout this entire video since everybody's preference is different, but just wanted you to know that that's my particular reference. I also use that to kind of start to glance to the left to pick up the orange dirt and also the start of the apex curbing. So once I see both the orange dirt and the green and yellow apex curbing come into view, that's where I start my turn in for a late apex. So this is one turn where you also want to make sure that you stick with kind of a late apex entry. Now you won't see the corner exit until you're right on top of the apex. As the road was there last time, it's going to be there now. It's just going to have to be one of those trust things that you'll get used to. But anyhow, so let the car swim out to the left exit before setting up for your entry into Oak Tree. So there's a couple of different ways to look at the Oak Tree corner. This is just one way, so your instructor may have different ways. So once you've exited turn 10, go back across the track all the way to the left. As you can see, I'm off by a couple of feet here, and so bad on me. Every foot of track matters. There's a reason for it. Make sure to use it. So this is yet another late apex, letting the car track out all the way to the left. And like turn 10, you don't see the corner exit or the track out point. They're the very outermost edge of the track until you're right on top of it. So this is the other section of track where I see students staying in the middle of the track, especially right when you're exiting the last part of Oak Tree, and not using all the track, and that makes for a very slow entry onto the back straight. So this is probably the one area I would say I spend the most time with students on, trying to get it right, and it's mainly on that entry because they don't trust the track is still there. So as you can see, I follow the corner exit all along the left side of the curbing before exiting the Oak Tree corner with yet another late apex. So my path through this looks at this section as a double apex, and as I said earlier, your instructor may have you do this as a single apex or more of a longer curve. So just keep that in mind, that people have different ways of looking at this particular corner. So on corner exit from Oak Tree, just slowly make your way to the right side of the track, and right when I exit Oak Tree, I like to glance all the way towards turn 10 so I can see the other traffic coming. I don't have the highest horsepower car, so if I can glance and see a GT3 coming up on me, I know that they'll probably catch me by the end of this back straight. I know to kind of keep that at the back of my mind. This is also an opportunity for you to relax. As a new student, you're probably going to have a lot of tension built up in your hands, having that grip of death on the wheel. That's not uncommon. So I would just focus on your breathing, relax your hands, scan your gauges, and then start trying to pick up the flagger on the left near the end of the back straight. That's one of the most important flaggers on the entire track, because they can signal trouble that may be down in a roller coaster or hog pen. There's no way that you can see that, so to have that advance notice is going to be crucial for you, for everybody else on the track as well. So now we're entering into the section known as roller coaster. I'm going to play this at full speed so you guys can kind of see a little bit of the rhythm, and we'll go back and go through it in slow motion. So I start my turn in at the arrow on your right. And I like to use just a touch of the unpainted shallow curbing on the left-hand side, holding it all the way until about just the end of that curbing you can see, and then another car link before I start my turn into the other turn. And that's yet another blind entry apex. And I like to hit the last 1/3 of that painted yellow and green curbing on the right-hand side. Like the initial turn, I also hold the wheel straight for about a car length to set myself up for that third turn in this section on your left-hand side. And that also is an apex for just about the last 1/3 of that curbing as well, and then tracking out to the right-hand side. The visual references I'm looking for here, right when I go past that third turn, is first the flagger on your left side there, because they will tell you what's going on in the hog pen. Then secondly, there's a straight, flat, painted yellow and green pavement on the right, which marks where you start your turn in for hog pen. So entry into hog pen is right when you pass the end of that painted pavement on your right. And you guessed it, it's a late apex. Now, most likely your instructor's not going to have you using as much of the curbing or the gator as I do, so just adjust accordingly. But either way, you'll want to hold the wheel to the left just for about a half a car length more to set you up for the next piece in the section on the right-hand side, so that next turn. And is taking a bit of that gator as well on the entry. What you'll see on the right at the end of the curbing, though, is there's a slight dip or a compression in the track. This does give you quite a bit of grip, and that's all the way through the rest of hog pen. So the key here is to enter and exit right at that compression, such that the turn is a constant radius. And you've got quite a bit of grip. You're not adjusting the wheel, opening up or closing it, and then slowly feeding in throttle all the way until you start to enter into the back straight. And onto the front straight. This is like the back straight, a chance for you to relax, scan your gauges, etc. So I wait until I'm about to pass that second to last pole before the red barn on the right hand side before I start my turn in to kind of cover that dog leg, and then I point my car towards the 5 number, the 5 board, just to kind of as a visual reference before we enter into turn 1. Now to turn 1. So start your turn in at the arrow for a very late apex. Ideally you would get the last 1/3 of the painted curbing on the right hand side. Here patience is definitely your friend. Entry to mid corner with usually neutral throttle and staying mid track. Then you'd slowly feed in the throttle. This corner is negative camber, especially on the outside where there's also quite a bit of marbles and not a lot of grip. If you are too early on throttle here, many cars, especially your Caymans and Boxsters, are going to understeer. So anyhow, patience is your friend. And that's 1 lap here at VIR. We're going to wrap things up with a lap in full speed. Have a great afternoon or a great morning or whatever the case may be.